How you doing?
Sheikh Uthman.
Yes, how are you?
I'm your biggest fan.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, definitely.
I appreciate it.
Florida to see you.
Wow, excellent, excellent. Thank you so much.
I brought my son with me and
MashaAllah.
my daughter-in-law. But that's okay. You just forget to have a question. So, I have a question that
Yes.
from my brother,
Okay.
which I have a lot of respect for him. He's a scholar like yourself, but not religious.
I'm just a student of knowledge, but yes.
But I appreciate you.
Thank
just the
you.
same. So he asked me to ask you the following question.
Okay.
What he wanted to know, he asked me to ask you, what is the purpose of the creation of mankind?
Okay. Excellent question. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us, Ma khalaqtul jinna wal insa illa liya'budun. I did not create the jinn or man except to worship me. Right? So Allah created us to first and foremost recognize Him. Like to worship, we have to know Allah, right? So in this world, that's the test we've been created for, right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Surah Mulk, الَّذِي خَلَقَ الْمَوْتَ وَالْحَيَاةَ لِيَبْلُوَكُمْ أَيُّكُمْ أَحْسَنُ عَمَلًا. That we created death and life to see which one of you puts forth the best of deeds. So the purpose of creation is for us to first and foremost recognize who our Creator is. And then as we recognize our Creator, to worship our Creator. Worship is not just, okay, praying and fasting. That's an aspect of it. But how do we live? How do we deal with our neighbors? How do we deal with our parents? How do we deal with our children? How do we deal with other human beings? How do we bring justice in the world? How do we live a life of trying to make the world a better place? All of that is a part of worship, right? That's why in Islam, it's a way of life. From when you wake up to when you sleep, to how you deal with criminal cases, all of that is governed by what Allah has revealed. So for us to live that life and then to make it with the best of deeds to our final destination, which is paradise, right? So Allah gave all of us a chance. He gave us the Quran. He gave us, look at the mercy of Allah. He sent prophet after prophet after prophet, right? Allah could have just given us the signs. You see the sky, you see the sun, you see the moon, you see your body, how it works. That would be enough. But out of His love, He sent from Adam all the way to Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon them, prophets, to guide us to what is right, to show us what is the right path, right? So that is the purpose of life, for us to recognize that path, to follow that path, to know our Creator, and to worship our Creator.
Very good. So I have two more questions.
Go ahead.
So the next question is, if God is one unit and He does not need, He doesn't have needs, He does not have desires.
True.
Right? He doesn't have any of that.
None of that.
If He doesn't have neither one, then what is His purpose of creating us? I'm sorry if I'm repeating
Excellent.
the same question.
Excellent question.
Yeah.
Allah doesn't need our worship, right? But we need Allah, right? When we follow the worships that Allah has prescribed, it benefits us. See, if you give somebody something without working for it, they don't value it, right? So for example, if we were always in heaven, we wouldn't value heaven. But this struggle that we went through when we see sickness, because in heaven there's no sickness, right? When we saw death, because in heaven there's no death, then we will appreciate what Allah has made for us in Jannah. So this is the test. Like for example, when you go to a university, right? The university doesn't need you to get good grades, but they give you a test to test you, right? So that when you work hard for that test and you pass that test, then you are deserving of that degree, right? So when we strive and struggle in this life, Allah doesn't need us not to drink alcohol. Allah doesn't need us not to eat pork. But drinking alcohol harms us. Eating pork harms us. All of that harms us. So when we live our life by the laws of Allah, then Allah blesses us with the prize of Al-Jannah. If we didn't, Allah doesn't need it. He gives it for us to benefit, right? The things Allah made haram are because they're harmful to us. The things that Allah made obligatory fard is because they benefit us. Imagine if we didn't pray 5 times a day, right? So now when you pray, it reminds you of the hereafter, right? If you didn't pray, sometimes we would become lost in this dunya. But Allah knew that, so He ordained salawat, prayers on us, right? Imagine if we didn't fast, we wouldn't feel the hunger of those people that don't have food. We would just be lost in our own. But when we fast and we're hungry, then we start realizing there are other people that are hungry, right? Imagine if we didn't have zakat, right? The people would just hoard wealth. But when you have to pay zakat, then you realize, oh, people need it. right? So those things are for our own benefit. And when we follow it, Allah gives us the paradise, which again, through our struggles in dunya, we will appreciate.
So, now this is a question that has been going around my head as long as
No
I've
problem.
been alive, okay? I believe that there is a God.
Okay, good.
I believe that He created His all for a purpose.
Excellent.
But if that's the case, I truly struggle with this question. Like, why does He allow so much misery in
Great
His
question.
creation? Why so much war? That's
Great
been going on
question.
for millennia. Why does He
Excellent.
allow it to happen? Why?
Excellent question. Now,
I mean,
imagine,
He created all of
of
this,
course,
why-
of course.
Why would you allow it?
Let me give you an
Why would you allow
example.
suffering?
I got you. Imagine if you are taking a test, like in an examination hall, right? Like when you go into a university. That test period is stressful, right? Like I'm sure you've been to different classes, you've taken tests, right? So when that timer starts ticking, or that online timer starts, and the professor is there, and you have a little bit of time, and if you fail, you're gonna lose, and they throw all kinds of questions at you that you weren't ready for, right? It's not because the university hates you. It's not because university wants you to suffer, but it's because you need to go through those to appreciate what you will have in the end, right?
Right, that's
So,
for as an individual. But
no,
I'm talking
as a whole, right? Imagine if there were no wars. Imagine if there was no sickness, right? This world would become like a paradise,
and
right?
why not? Why not
Excellent,
take it?
because
why not allow it to be?
because see, this world is meant as a test, not as the destination.
But I'm sorry, you know,
I got you.
I hear what you're saying, but I promise you, like I said, this question has been going in my head forever.
I
Why
understand.
would you allow wars and injustice? You know, for example, I've heard you talk about, for example, what's
Let me give you one hadith that will explain it. Okay? One hadith of the Prophet ﷺ. The Prophet ﷺ said, if you take somebody who lived the hardest life, had the most struggles, right? Imagine somebody who's been through war, rape, plagues, every hardship you can think of, right? And you give them one dip in the paradise, and you take them out and you ask them, have you ever seen a single moment of hardship? They will tell you, I swear I've never seen hardship, right? So that tells you that all the hardships of this world will be nothing once you get to the paradise, right? You will not even remember it. Imagine sometime when you were driving to go see a family member or through a trip, and the trip was really harsh. But then when you got there and you saw your family and you had the beautiful dinner, you forgot all of that, right? Now let me give you another example. You see Ukraine, the war in Ukraine right now, you see a lot of refugees in Poland. I was talking to somebody from Europe, right? A few years ago. And I'm not going to mention who they are, right? And they were from Ukraine. And they were talking to us online, and at that time the Syrian refugees were going through war. They were refugees, right? And these people were saying, we don't want them in our country, we want our borders blocked, right? Now when they had war come on them and they became refugees, and now that they're going to Poland and other countries, now they feel that suffering. They develop an empathy, right? They develop a sympathy. They develop a feeling for the others, right? Without that taste of hardship, we would never. How you doing, bro? Good to see you, man. I see you. Right? Without that, you wouldn't understand it. So this is why there had to be suffering in this world. But this world is temporary, right? All the wars, all the thing, doesn't matter. As long as you make your purpose, the hereafter, all the suffering in this world, you won't even remember. Right? All the people that are going through these hardships, it should remind them of their purpose. You know, like sometimes we get lost in the worldly life. You know, when we have no hardship, we're not sick. Like right now, I'm fasting and I have a sore throat, right? So right now, I'm appreciating the time when I could eat and drink in the daytime. If my throat hurt, I could take some honey, right? Right? If I didn't go through this, I would never appreciate that. Right? So I had to go through this suffering to appreciate that, right? So just like that, when we see wars, right? And Allah tells us, live in peace, right? He calls us to Darus Salam, the place of peace, right? So here, we're supposed to live in peace, but when we violate that, right? When we harm each other, when we steal, when we do those things, right? Then we see the harms of it, then we step back from it, right? But
again,
as we should.
As we should, and as a
and then it'll remind us.
Yes, but I'm talking about the big.
No, I mean, so again, as a big picture, right? As a society, When, for example, in Ukraine, if there was no war, right? The people would never think about what others are going through as a society. Now, as a society after this war, I guarantee you the people will be more concerned about the people of Palestine, the people of Syria, the people of Iraq, the people of China, Uyghurs, right? So now, when you get lost in your worldly thoughts, then those societal harms, like, when you get an earthquake, I had a family member that was kind of lost in a lot of things. And then there was an earthquake. He's in LA, right? The earth shook. Suddenly he went to his parents. He started being very nice to them. And they're like, why? He said, because I realized that what I'm doing, all the fun that I'm trying to have, may end one day. So I got to correct myself. So you see that earthquake woke up the society, the people of Yunus in the Quran, of Yunus, right? They were indulging in their behavior. They didn't listen to the Prophet Yunus. They were doing whatever they wanted. Then the punishment of Allah started to come. When they saw the punishment and that stress came, they immediately turned back to Allah, right? And Allah saved them. So we as society will have these hardships, we'll have earthquakes, we will have those to remind us that this life is not forever. Don't get caught up. When you're here in the examination hall, focus on the goal, right? And our goal is the hereafter, right? When you see all of that, then you recognize I need to connect with my Creator, because I don't know. Tomorrow, maybe China will nuke San Diego, right? So we need to always focus on that. Right? So let me ask you, what's your belief? You believe in one God?
100%.
Excellent. You believe that God sent prophets?
That's a good question, because I've always asked, that's another question that I've had since childhood, is that if there's only one Creator that created all of us, then why would He create so many different religions?
He didn't.
Like a division.
Excellent.
To divide people.
Great question. Think about that. We as Muslims believe there's only one message, one religion, right? We believe Moses, Abraham, Jesus, Muhammad brought the exact same message from the exact same God, right? Which is the message? Believe in one God. What's the first commandment? Hear, O Israel, your Lord is one. Second commandment, don't worship idols. But people stray from that. You see Christians, you go churches, now you see statues. You see Mary and the Catholics, you see Jesus, you see statues, you see worshiping idols. And that's exactly what the message was not to do. You see Jews, they develop their own ideas. Some of them, they grow curls and wear furry hats. Some of them do different things. Yeah, you've seen the little, they're actually from foxtails originally, from Austria. Nothing to do with Moses or David, right? Some of them, you can Google this. Some of the Jews, they take live chicken and throw them over their heads. They say this forgives sins. But Moses didn't teach them that, right? So they invented their own. Hinduism, you see a bunch of different types of Hinduism that people developed and started worshipping everything. I just saw an article, there are people in India worshipping Mr. Potato Head. You know the toy, Mr. Google it, look it up. I couldn't make it up, right? There are people who worship rats, there are people who worship all kinds of things, right? So that's not the message of God. The message of God is one message. What is it? Believe in one God, follow the prophet of your time. That's the message of God. And it's always been one message, right? So you believe that is a true message, right?
Yes.
You believe those prophets that came brought that one message, not to divide people, but to unite them upon the truth, right? You're a Muslim.
Yeah, but why create, Judaism?
Well, no, but Allah didn't create those. Allah, look, we have a sign that says Jesus. See, it says Jesus is a Muslim, right? What does that mean? We believe that Allah made only one religion. Different prophets came to remind mankind, because Adam, for example, he was upon Tawheed, upon the belief in oneness of Allah, right? But from the later generation, to the time of Noah, people started to go astray. They started to worship idols. Allah didn't make that. That was for the people that did something wrong. So Allah, from His mercy, then sent Noah to reinforce the message of Adam. That no, go back to the original message, one God, don't worship idols, right? As humanity started to go astray, Allah sent Abraham and Moses and Jesus and Muhammad and many, many other prophets. Peace and blessings be upon all of them. But we believe there's only one message, no other religion. We are on the same religion as Jesus, as Moses, as Abraham, right? So, do you believe in that message?
Yeah, of course.
Then you're a Muslim.
I would be here.
Then you're a Muslim. We'll do your shahada. You're going to be a Muslim today, officially. If that's what you believe, why not? Right? And you have the belief in your heart.
I just have a lot of, unanswered questions.
We will
I have
answer.
a lot, I'm a bit nervous right now, so I can't even think
Relax.
straight.
I'll tell you
I
what.
just wanted to fix
We
my
will
brother's
we will give you the contact information for the brothers. We will answer all your questions. No problem. You're in Florida. You're not that far from us. Don't worry. We will take care of that. But if you have that belief, then at least you should testify to it. Right? Say, I believe in one Allah. The one God. I believe in the Prophet Muhammad. I believe that you shouldn't worship idols or others. I believe humanity should not be divided into this religion, that we should all be upon the truth of Islam, of the one religion, the one message that all the prophets brought. That is Islam.
I mean, truthfully, I've never believed in praying to the statue that is made.
Exactly. See?
That
Exactly. Think about how beautiful is that. People make statues with their hands and then worship it, and then it breaks. And they think this is God. No, we believe God cannot even be described in human terms. We cannot say He is like, what's called tashbih. We cannot say God's like this man. Forget about saying a man is God, right? We say, as Allah said in the Quran, "Laysa kamithlihi shay." There is nothing that is even comparable to God, right?
That's just common sense and logic. I don't have to be
Exactly.
one-fifth.
Islam is fitrah. It is logical. It is what is in your original belief.
So